Duncan, the reaction to Moon was incredibly positive, and it's the source code is a really good follow-up to it. Can you tell me a bit about the pressures of following Moon? I believe Mute was going to be one of your next projects. What happened with that?
Yeah, well, Mute was actually supposed to be my first film. And in fact, the whole reason I did Moon is because I pitched Mute to Sam Rockwell, and he loved it, but wanted to play a different character than the one that I wanted him to play. And because we were never going to agree, I said, well, look, why don't I just write you a film? And that's how Moon happened. So Mute has kind of been on the back burner for a long time, and you know, I don't know when I'm going to get the chance to make it. I think what we're going to try and do is make it as a graphic novel first, and see, you know, if maybe that's a way to both interest people who might want to come on board the film, and also give me a chance to show people who've heard about it and see whether there is actually an appetite for this fairly unusual story.
Would that be the film itself, or would that be like a precursor to it, or just introducing the world?
It would be the actual story of the film. Yeah, so I'd be trying, I think Darren Aronofsky did a similar thing with The Fountain. Right. Where he released it as a graphic novel, and it was basically the precursor to, it was the story of the film, but done as a graphic novel first. Okay.
And you're not working on that yet, but that's something that's coming out.
It's, yeah, I mean, to be in all honesty, it's you know, we've been working so hard on doing the support and press for Source Code that all of the things that we're hoping to do next, we've put on the back burner until we get this finished.
Okay, fair enough. And what was it about Source Code that kind of convinced you that's the one I want to follow up?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of momentum coming up, you know, from Moon.
Well, that's the funny thing is I'm very glad I did it, but at the time that I made the decision to do Source Code, we were still worried about, you know, whether the film was going to make its money back, and we hadn't really received any awards yet. I mean, some people had seen it. Jake had seen Moon and was a big fan of it, and I met up with him, very much wanting to work with him. And he said, look, I've got this script Source Code I think you might be interested in. And I went away and read it, and I thought, this is great. I think I can really do something creative with this. I can have some fun with this. And I get to work with Jake, who I'm a big fan of. And that's kind of what sealed it for me. So any kind of you know, sitting around waiting for whatever the opportunities are going to be, I didn't really have any time for that, because I went straight from Moon straight onto Source Code. Okay,
and the Source Code is, I know you've talked about hard sci-fi and sort of soft sci-fi.
Yeah.
This is slightly softer, I think you'll agree.
I call this grey sci-fi. Grey area sci-fi.
One of the points about Source Code was the technology that was used in it, the actual, you know, computer or the sort of hardware that's used for it. It remains a mystery for quite a lot of the film.
Yeah.
Now, unlike Moon, where the technology was a discovery and that kind of had huge implications for it, Jeffrey Wright in the film just kind of explains it. Was there ever any need to rewrite that? Did you ever sort of toy with getting rid of the explanation and keeping the mystery?
No, I think you needed the audience to at least feel like these people had an understanding of what was going on, even if, as you know, without getting too spoilerish, they actually are wrong in what their own technology does. I think that was necessary. What was interesting though is that I know in earlier drafts of the script that Ben Ripley wrote, there was a lot more explanation and exposition than what we ended up with in the film that we shot. And I think we were always trying to pull it out till we got to the bare bones of what does the audience need to know? What are the rules that we're setting up that will allow the audience to at least understand, you know, what the conceit is, what the science fiction idea is. And then one of my sort of additions to the project was to lighten the tone of the film, find ways to inject some humor into it, and hopefully with that give the audience the license, you know, let them feel okay about just having that leap of faith about the technology in the first place. When it comes to the ending of the film, which is something very different, I really do believe that it makes sense that there is a reason that it ends the way it does, and it's been fun watching the discussion boards on the internet, because there's a whole host of opinions on it. Some people who get it, some people who are confused, and some people who think that it's at fault. But at least people are talking about that. I think that's good. That's good news.
The ending for me, it was kind of a bit of a twist of the knife right at the end. We spent so long hoping that he would get out and that he would, you know, meet the girl, and he kind of does, but then again he kind of doesn't, and it really plays with your emotions. But did you ever sort of cut off the ending? Did you ever sort of try and play it out and see if people would sort of leave it to mystery?
There was an alternative ending that the producers wanted and that we tried, and I'm a fan. I was a fan of the ending that we have and that went out to cinema, so I'm really glad about that. But it was much sweeter. It was just a quite straightforward romantic ending. and they all lived happily ever after. And it just didn't work for me, especially with what we had set up. It seemed like if you're going to set up a science fiction idea like this and then you don't pay it off with what the paradox is that's been created by the end of the film, you really are missing out on the whole trick of it all and the whole what's great about the idea in the first place.
Okay, that's interesting. I presume that it ended when they were looking at the big mirror.
Yes. Yes.
And then that was it. And then credits.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you chose the Source Code and Moon in particular, intelligent sci-fi, and there's kind of a resurgence at the moment.
Yeah.
There was Lars von Trier's Melancholia had its trailer come out just a few hours ago, and it looks incredible. So
okay.
You and you're really part of that. So are you going to stay in that genre? Is that where you see yourself? Would you ever do like a period piece or something like that?
Absolutely would do other genres, and I intend to. I've been on a very, very long-term strategy to get to the point where I can make the science fiction film I want to make. It may not be Mute, but I'm writing something else right now. But I wanted to be in a position where the guys I admire are guys like the Coen brothers and Tarantino, where they write their own material and then they do it at a budget where they feel they can deliver their vision of it. And I think I'm almost there now. I'm hoping my third film is going to be that film, where I have a science fiction film that delivers what I wanted to deliver. Moon was very much sort of designed by its limitations, and I think we did a wonderful job with it, but I still think that I had a lot more to offer on the science fiction side, and I'm hoping this third film is going to be it. And then I do want to try some other genres.
If you did like a period piece, how would you get Chesney Hawkes into that?
Well, there are ways.
Would you have his dialogue?
You've never heard Chesney Hawkes on an accordion.
I look forward to that. This third film, is it the ensemble piece that you kind of mentioned in other interviews? Is that kind of
Yeah. I'm very excited about it because I believe it's a combination of characters and a situation, and some. It's quite action heavy,
right.
And I also it's been fun for me to write action creatively. So no, I'm very excited about it.
Is it in the same universe as
that I'm not going to. Well, Source Code is not mine, so Source Code is never really going to fit into any of my universes. But Moon is always going to sort of find its way to infiltrate any of my science fiction, I think.
Okay. Look out for Sam Bell in the door or something. As a filmmaker, I've noticed from Moon and from Source Code, you kind of build the narrative on sort of repetition and in sort of almost building up a sort of a philosophical point at the end of it. Is that something that you wanted to do with Source Code, that you saw parallels with Moon, or was it just simply this is the story and this is where I want to go with it?
No, I mean it was certainly there for Moon, and it was by design on Moon. I would say that because Jake brought me Source Code, and it was because of his affection for Moon, I think he was the one who saw the parallels more than me. When I read Source Code, I was getting all excited about the things that were different about it from Moon. The fact there was more than one actor, the fact that there was going to be all this action and special effects and stunts, and there's a romance, there's the opportunity for comedy. So for me, that was kind of what grabbed me. But I think when I got to the edit, then I started to notice the parallels which now that the films are both finished, you can watch them both and you really can see there are some similar themes there.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yeah, of course.
I would be lynched if I didn't ask you about Wolverine.
Yeah.
Because everyone said, put your name to the hat. I presume that's something that hasn't been offered to you, or has it?
I've been incredibly busy doing the press for Source Code. I know that there are a number of meetings and things that I have to do when I get back to LA, and we'll see what happens. It's going to have to be a damn good film and a damn good offer to take me off of doing my own stuff, though.
I'd like to see what you do on your own. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I love your T-shirt.
I wore it especially.
Thank you.